僕が僕を愛すること生だし応じてもいいかどこへ向かう旅だとしても
Hello, everyone. This is your always tactful host, Pendy.
And this is Paul, also known as East X Twitch.
Pendy Strash. Pendy Strash.
What are you doing over there?
Oh, I'm just working on my latest sword technique. It's the Pendy Strash.
Don't you mean the Avan Strash?
Nah, it's the Pendy Strash. It's my own particular technique. Next, I'll be working on my Pengante.
You mean Megante? I don't think that's a good idea.
Ah, you worry too much. What could possibly go wrong? Okay, watch this. Pengante.
Are you all right?
Oh my God. Oh, okay. You were right. That was a horrible idea.
That's what you get for vaping. Anyway, while Penny pulls himself together, I'll go ahead and welcome you all to Tactfully Dai, a Slime Time podcast spin-off that will cover just about everything in the world of Dragon Quest, the Adventure of Dai, and the Dragon Quest Tact mobile game.
Sorry. That's right. We'll discuss the latest and greatest with Dragon Quest Tact first.
That's right. Let's talk some Tact. Pendy, how did you do in the 3 in-game events that just ended?
Man, I did pretty well, but man, I have a story about those Hyuncle stages. So I ended up getting to Hyuncle level 20, and I was able to figure out like what I needed to do to conquer it, because the basic strategy calls for dual magus, and I don't have that character. So I tried to see if there was anybody else that I could maybe use to take care of that, because dual magus has like I think he uses like the ability where he can make squares do damage and stuff like that. I think that's a big part of it, and plus he can't get attacked for a while. But anyways, I used Yangus, Seraphi, and Halbertsaurus, or as a lot of people like to call it, Arenasaurus, because it was such a good arena monster for so long. So I used those 3. I alluded to it last week. I had one of the monsters wrong, but those are the 3 that you needed to use that you could, long-term come up with a strategy to beat Hyuncle level 20. So basically, you kind of do some things, you shuffle some people around, but eventually you get it to where the Halbertsaurus will take the brunt of all the attacks, while Seraphi will heal him in the background. But so you're going to drain Hyuncle's magic until he has no more magic left. Well, the problem with this, it took me about 66 turns before he ran out of magic.
A lot of turns.
Yeah, that's a lot of turns, a lot of patience. I ended up, when I was doing the strategy, I was listening to some Dragon Quest podcasts at the same time. I caught up on some Slime Time, part of the stew that we're in, the Slime Time Extended Universe that we are now a part of, and I caught up on some Dragon Quest FM as well. But anywho, so I get up to where it's 66. He just run out of magic. He starts to charge towards you. You kind of have to make sure that he doesn't go after Seraphi and kind of surround him, or else he'll take out Seraphi. And then you can slowly kind of chip away at his health until you can finally take him down. And Seraphi still does some things in the background. So I did that, and that still takes a long time. And he actually heals at some point, automatically heals at some point too. So then you got to get him back down. I got back to, I think it was like the final turn. It was like turn 99. And I got the little coffin symbol saying that, hey, I can kill him with this final attack. I go to attack. Guess what happens?
What?
So someone guessed before that, you missed. And that's a possibility, because sometimes Halbertsaurus would miss. But no, he has that auto-revive ability. He auto-revived. And that was the end of the turn. And that's when I learned the hard way that if you go over 99 turns in a mission, in a stage, that's game over. I did not know that.
That stinks.
Yeah, so I ended up doing it again. I was a glutton for punishment, and I did a better strategy where, as I was chipping away his health, I made sure to do better use of Yangus's tension with the abilities that he had left to do MP with before he just had to do regular attacks. I used a lot of nitty-gritty with Seraphi, and this way it was in the low 90s when I finally got him down to almost dying, and then he ended up auto-reviving twice before I finally took him down. But I had him down enough that I was able to do it before 99 turns had come up.
Tough, but
99 turns and a Hyuncle on a wall.
Oh, goodness.
So I was able to conquer that stage. It really wasn't worth it, but it was interesting. It was. I don't think I'd ever do something like that again, but it was fun. And, like I said, I got a lot of good catching up on podcasting while I was doing it. So I just wasn't just doing that completely. I was doing other things, but it was good.
Congratulations on the victory. So am I to understand that you had a harder time with that stage because you didn't have a dual Magus?
Yes.
So basically you were forced to step down and try to win with only a single Magus.
Ah.
I mean, that's what it sounds like.
You got me. Yes, that's basically.
But you got farther than I did, because I did manage to clear Hyuncle 19, which was, I mean, that was trouble enough. And this is with a dual Magus, I believe. I forget. I don't know. But anyway, I beat 19, tried 20 a few times, and it wasn't working out. And I ran out of time, and that's what always happens to me is like, I put things off because the ultra hard content is unpleasant. It's like you described, it's not really fun to have to do that. And I kind of wish they wouldn't lean into it so much. And it pisses my fiance off, again, I think things should be designed to be fun and not just battles of attrition like that. But, at least I'd be 19, which is what I needed in order to get the orb to rank up Baron, So, I got the important thing from it. I don't think 20 had... Well, I mean, you would get more of the stuff so you could get more hero crystals or something, but it wasn't the most important thing in the world.
Yeah, and I ended up doing the opposite. I treat the crystals like liquid gold, and so I almost always go after the crystals because you can get a dupe with that, and that can be really useful later on.
True. Yeah.
So I ended up doing the crystals instead of that. So I was able, and normally that would not be a problem because I had all of the Dai iridescent orbs or just Dai orbs, except for that last one that you would get from doing like a perfect Hyuncle on that level. Because I only got one of the three. Was it stars or whatever for that mission? Yeah. So I didn't, but I had, because remember I had all the Dai characters. So I had like Dai and Hadler and all the other S characters that needed those Dai orbs. And I was able to get them all maxed out to 7, but not the regular Baron because it was hidden behind that last wall. But if you notice, they just came out with that notice that you can swap regular orbs for a Dai orb. So if I want to get him up to level 7, I can use a regular iridescent orb eventually and do that if I want to.
That's true. And speaking of which, I know that some of the people in my guild are disappointed that it's only a one-way swap. Apparently, when this feature had been teased at the beginning of the event, they made it sound like you would be able to swap one kind of orb for the other, and vice versa. But that's not the case. It's like you can take a regular iridescent orb and change it into the Dai kind, but not the other way around. So people who didn't get all of the Dai units may be left with those extra orbs.
Yeah, basically it's one of those honeypot situations with just trying to motivate you to get those banner units, because if you were to get perfect on everything, you would have just enough Dai orbs to max out everyone to level 7 for every S Dai character. But like you said, if you didn't get all the banner units, then you'd most likely have some Dai orbs left over, which until you eventually get those banner units are going to be completely useless. And hopefully they'll do one of those what do you call it? Yeah, encore events where it comes back, I hope. So
yeah, supposedly it hasn't come back in Japan yet, which is interesting, but it doesn't mean it won't ever come back. So
true. We'll reminiscence. That's the word we were looking for.
There you go.
Reminiscence events. But yeah, those don't come out until like much later. So I think we'll see it eventually, but it's a very long time before you see a reminiscence event again. So hopefully we'll see that. So
yeah, we're looking at 6 months or more.
Oh yeah, probably not for like a year. It'll be like the next Dai event before we see it again. But oh well.
I think you're right. Anyway, did you clear the heroes?
Yes, I did do that. Both the hero fights I did clear.
That's good. I did as well, which was very satisfying. But unfortunately, again, my fiance, I tend to help her with the harder content because she doesn't have the patience for it. And I kind of don't even blame her because sometimes the fights are just BS. But anyway, I wasn't able to help her beat it. Her team, they just didn't quite have enough DPS for it to work. And I tried for 2.5 hours. I tried all these different combinations, like swapping out different units while trying to stick to this general strategy from one of the videos, But unfortunately, we just had to give up, which is a real shame.
And a lot of these events, some of the especially the EX stages, sometimes they are just more for bragging rights than anything else, and they don't really have big rewards. Like at most they'll have like a fancy rainbow icon for a certain character or something like that, and it's just like a one-time use icon thing. Not one-time use, but it's just like it's one little thing, like, oh, you can change your icon to it, and oh well.
Not even a big deal.
Right, exactly. Not even a big deal. So I like that while they do have these incredibly hard EX events that can sometimes be beyond the reach of someone's abilities, it's not something that's really required to do anything important in the game most of the time. Like usually. I ignored the Baron EX fights. I didn't have time to sit down and try and figure those out. And they had the fight where you could use a character only once as you went through all the fights, and armor only once as you went through a fight, whatever that's called. I went through that and I got everything except for the EX fights. I beat one of the EX rounds and I wasn't able to win any others. But I was like, that's okay. The rewards aren't worth it for me to try and figure this out. For some reason, I was determined to beat Hyuncle 20, but that was my one thing.
Nothing wrong with aiming for the sky. I hate to say it, but I didn't even attempt the Sorrow's Tower type one that you just described. The one where you can only use each unit once. Like, I just would have needed more time for it. And the fact that we had 3 different events going on at once, like that just pulled me away. If it had only been that one event, then I would have gotten around to it, surely, but it just wasn't to be this time.
And I believe the biggest thing that you got from that particular event, those missions, was Popnika copies of the sword. Copies of the Popnika knife. I think that was like the biggest reward you got for completing those, if I remember.
Not a huge deal.
Yeah. So if you weren't big on that knife and you didn't have Dai, then it's not like a huge thing. And there's other ways to get copies of that too. But that was like one of the easier ways to get copies. I think that was one of the easier ways of getting copies of that knife, was doing those stages.
Yeah, I bet it would have been fun if I'd had the time for it. That's enough talking about the Dai event. Why don't you tell us about the current event?
Yeah, the new event that just started is the Dragon Quest XI event. We're currently in part 1 of this event with Jade and other various monsters as the free units, with Veronica and Jarvis as the banner units. I'm currently max hearts for Dora and Gray. That's a level unit that you can farm. She's highly rated in Japan and even has a move that can often lock an enemy's spells and physical moves. And I say often, which is great, because some of these abilities that you get, like poison or locking someone's moves or something like that, you read the description, it says like, oh, it'll rarely affect an enemy. This ability actually says it will do it often, so it's a really good move. So I can see why she's rated so high. I'm at 4 hearts with her now, and then probably after that I will farm some more claws for Jade to get to some more copies. What about you?
Not bad. Well, about an ability activating often, that means it has a 60% chance of activating, I believe.
I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah, so that's a very high chance, yeah.
Yes.
But anyway, in the current events, let's see, I've got Dora and Gray at 4.5 hearts, so I'm almost there. I actually, for a day or two, I stopped and just farmed rank up materials because I'm dangerously low on irises. So that's not a fun place to be, because when we don't have a rank up event boosting the drop rate is just really terrible, and you have to burn a lot of stamina to get them, just for the chance of getting them.
Yeah, I've been there before. Yeah, this sucks.
Indeed. And during the Dai event, there was a package you could buy, for like, I don't know, $30 or something, where you got 50 irises. And I couldn't say no to that because I really needed the irises. But I'm afraid they're all gone by now, because I just really like to rank up all my units. Like I'm always chasing those master levels.
Nice. I actually went for that too. That was the one thing that I bought from the items that you could buy, was I got that because I got Christmas time Alina.
Cool.
Alina. So I was like, I want to get her level up right away. So I ended up buying the orb and the irises, which are always super valuable, because if you rank up your people a lot, you're going to burn through those pretty fast most of the time.
Definitely. And by the way, I finally got Christmas Alina as well, but oh my gosh, she was expensive. So for my birthday at the beginning of May, I got a $85 Google Play gift card. So yeah, I spent it on the Biggest Gems package and just did just did 10 pulls on her, but then I didn't get her. So that's kind of the problem with like using a gift towards pulls in a gacha game, is you may just not get anything, and it ends up being kind of frustrating. So yeah, in the end, I think I bought a total of 3 of the biggest gem packages just to be able to get her on the 15th friggin' 10 pull. The game has really been messing with me. I don't know why. It's something about like whether players spend money and how much they play or something, in my opinion, because it's not factual, but this is like the second time lately that I've had to go all the way to 15 10 pulls, and I mean, I just wish they wouldn't do that, because like it's not sustainable for me as a player, and it does not make me like the game anymore. It's only frustrating.
Well, I mean, you do gotta sometimes kind of bring it in a little bit and kind of pause and be like, oh, do I really need every character or every awesome character that comes along? You just gotta make some decisions and be like, you know what, I'm gonna hold off a little bit. I did that. I'm doing that with 11. There's no one that I'm really shooting for in 11. Like Veronica is a super good mage, but I'm like, you know what? I went for Christmas time, Alina. I did that at the very end. I got lucky. I did her in like 6 pulls. But I'll probably wait until we get the dark elf form of Pizarro before I start pulling again for somebody like that.
And that's presumably a few months off.
Yeah, I think he'll show up in around July timeframe, because I think he shows up around the 1.5 anniversary, if I remember right.
Gotcha. And you're right. You have to pick your battles with these banners and decide whether you're going to fight with the game or not to try to get them. And perhaps arbitrarily, I decided that I just wanted that dang Santa Alina, And
no, I don't blame you. Santa Alina is amazing because she has bounce for like her first 3 turns, so that's like really good. And it's just another great Alina character, because the first Alina character, especially fully blossomed, is like super great. So to have another one to complement that, like, woo, watch out.
Yeah, so cool. And I like Christmas anyway, so the characters in the Christmas outfits, that really appeals to me. And plus, after a certain point, like say you've done like 9 or 10 pulls, and it's like, well, it's not that far to get to the 15th one, so the sunk cost fallacy kicks in.
Oh no. And then you just keep going and like, why did I do this?
Yeah,
and then you have buyer's remorse.
A bit. I haven't really gotten a chance to do much with her yet, because like for one thing, I can't upgrade her abilities because it never gives, the game has not given us any ability tome events in quite a while. So like you're probably in the same situation where your character's abilities are a little underleveled.
Oh, so I've been burning through gems doing extra missions to get extra stamina. Like I'll get to, like I can't do what some people do through our Facebook group where like they'll max it out, but I'll do it where it's like 40 extra gems or 60 extra gems, and then it pops up to like 100 extra gems. And like, I'm not doing that. I'll never do that. But I've been doing that a lot recently to get some tomes and some rank up materials, mostly for Santa Alina, and then also for what we're going to talk about later with the guild tournament. I'm using Baron, and I want his abilities to be plus 10. So I went and did a lot of tome battles for that. I was hoping, like you, for those ×2 events that they were giving us a lot in the past. Yeah. But after a while, I just gave up. I was like, I don't know. It seems like it's been a month since they've done one, and I don't know when they're going to do one again. So I'm just going to have to bite the bullet, and I'll use some extra stam, and I'll go for it because I can't wait any longer. So I went ahead and did it. So I was like, oh well.
I would say it's been 6 weeks or so. Like,
yeah, it's been too long.
Easily more than a month. If you told me it was 2 months, I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, similarly, I did burn a lot of stamina just to get Jessica's Mage Masher move, I think it's called, all the way up to 10.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a very valuable move, and it comes into play for a lot of strategies to beat some of the harder levels, so that makes sense.
Indeed. So, yeah, at least I needed to have that up there. But, Jessica is a great mage unit, and a little while ago you mentioned Veronica, who is also a very strong mage unit. Mm-hmm. And what makes her so good is that she has a chance to cast a spell twice with her ability Enchanting Echo, which comes with her first awakening.
Yeah, that's right. And if you get more dupes for her, the chance of that goes up. I think it adds like 10% after 3 dupes or something like that if you go that high. And I think it goes up again a second time if you get even more dupes of her. Not that I ever go that high with banner characters. I think the most I've ever done with a banner character with dupes, I've got 3 hearts on Nocturnus, and that's like the most I think that's the most I've gone with like like a not one of the regular S characters, but like a actual like banner character.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also there is Jade, who is a solid free unit that is now our second unit that has the charm ability after Jessica being the first one.
Oh yeah.
And also in this event, you can battle Mortigan as a mega boss battle. It's interesting because they have him in his final boss form, where he's in 2 parts, and those 2 parts will split, and unless you knock him out right away, one of the parts will back away so that you can't attack it, so you can only attack one part at a time. And both of those parts have different weaknesses and strengths, so you face kind of a different enemy as one backs away and one's up front.
Yeah, this is definitely a different kind of mega boss battle with its own unique strategy, which is really cool. I haven't gotten all the way to 10 yet. I think I'm at like, I don't know, 7 or 8, so I need to spend more time with that as well, as with everything. How far along are you?
So I am I'm at, I just beat stage 11, and I muscled my way through stage 11, and I barely won that with just 1 round of keys with 3 keys. So I don't want to waste my keys. So in the future, I'll see what the different strategies are out there on YouTube to see what are the most efficient ways to take them down, because I don't want to just burn through my keys when I don't have to. Oh, yeah. And plus, especially for this, even though they do seem to be very generous with the keys, more so than they have in the past, which we'll explain here why in a minute. But they also had the mega boss battle ×5 challenge, where you actually have to use 15 keys to do one of those challenges, and they unlock. Oh yeah, a lot, 15 keys, and they get unlocked after beating stage 5, stage 10, stage 15, and stage 20. From what I read, they're not any more difficult than their mirrored board. So like, say you go like you beat stage 15 and then you unlock ×5 15. It's supposed to be the same difficulty, but I guess the rewards are a lot higher because it takes more keys to do or something like that. I've only done the level 5 one. It didn't really seem to give me much, but maybe when I do the 10 one, it'll be more noticeable. I
hope it at least warrants the number of keys that it costs. You know, like the reward is commensurate with the key cost.
Right. And then it's probably a better strategy to not necessarily, especially if you struggle to get keys and you're worried about that. One of the final orbs that you can get is, I think, from beating level 20. So because you get the different orbs from beating different levels. Oh. So you probably want to knock out level 20 before you do the ×5 challenge if you're worried about that.
Oh yeah, actually for level 20, wasn't it? It was Jade's final awakening crystal, I believe, is what's tied to that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That might be as well, because there's 2 things going on. Because there is the what do you call it? There's the special mission, and then there's the Jade Awakening. So there's two things going on when you're trying to do different levels and things like that. But remember, with the special missions, you kind of collect the orbs like you do in Dragon Quest XI, and it's the blue orb. That's the final one that I'm missing. That will give you 1,000 of those Mortigan coins, and also that's how you get a free iridescent orb. If you collect all the orbs, then you get a free iridescent orb.
So that's important.
Yes. So that's tied to level 20, I believe. And it may be tied to that Jade thing as well. I haven't checked that out.
Now, one thing is tied to level 15, the other is tied to 20.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Gotcha. So I should be getting that soon. That'll be cool.
So in addition to the mega boss battles, we have a new thing that has sort of just started, or at least it's about to start, and that's guild tournaments.
That's right.
Yeah, so we're in the sign-up phase or the setup phase at this point, which I think will last 2 more days from our recording, and then the actual tournament starts. So I'm a little fuzzy on how this works, as many of us are, because this is the first time it's happened. But basically, you need a certain number of members of your guild to sign up for this, to go into the sign-up phase. And they actually have to choose a team that will be their defensive team and maybe also their offensive team, I guess.
I've asked around about that, and supposedly, yes, that what you pick as your defensive team will also be your offensive team. Could be wrong, but that's what I've been told by other people more in the know than I am.
Gotcha. And so it seems like you have to put some thought into kind of general purpose. Like you can't have yours tailored to only work against this one particular banner unit, because what if they go up against somebody who doesn't have that banner unit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to consider resistances and the strengths of your team and all that. So I'm in the middle of deciding on what my team should be. Do you have yours selected?
I do. Like I was saying, one of them is Baran, so I'm just doing my final setup with that. So I have what is it? I'm going to use Baran, and I'm going to use Hellsguard Vera as part of my team.
I wish I had her.
She's really good. I got lucky and got like a lot of dupes of her. That's another unit that I have three hearts on her. And her agility is super quick, and she has her main attack attacks in a T pattern, so it can take out a lot of enemies all at once, or at least damage a lot of enemies all at once. And it's not tied to a specific element. It's just a basic attack, so it's just based off her regular strength.
So that'll be good for this for sure.
Yes. Oh, so anyways, so I've got, like I said, I've got Hellsguard Vera, I've got Baran, Squidzilla, King, She-Slime, and then that left me to be able to do an A unit as well to round out my 5. So then I picked a Red Robin Hood. So he kind of hits like a truck for an A unit, so I ended up taking him. So that should be interesting. And this whole, guild system is quite the ordeal. It should be interesting because you have to communicate with each other. You don't have to, but it would help a whole lot, because in these upcoming battles, you have to coordinate who fights who effectively, because basically you're going to be fighting certain guilds, and you can only fight somebody once. There's some certain exceptions where you might have something different, where like if one team has more people than the others, but basically it's like you pick one person to fight, and then once you've picked that person, then another person on your team can't go after that person. They have to go after somebody different. So if I have like one of the strongest teams in my guild and I go after the weakest person in the other guild, that's like complete waste, because I should have had someone weaker in the guild take out that person while I take out someone stronger. So there's a lot of strategy that can go into it. And that's why I'm disappointed that they don't have the guild chat that they have in the Japanese version. They took it out of the global version because there's just too many languages involved to be able to coordinate that, I guess. And so if you don't have some kind of Discord or something, some kind of similar setup to that, then it can make communication with your guild, well, pretty much impossible. So you can't coordinate with everybody like, oh, hey, you take this person and I'll take this person, and so on and so forth. So I can see why people were unhappy about that in the post that I saw in the Dragon Quest Global Facebook group that we run. I can understand why they were very unhappy about not having a guild chat.
Yes, it's a real problem, and the developers should not have cheaped out or wimped out by excluding chat from the global version of the game. They have their excuses, but there are plenty of gacha games that are localized in English and other languages that do have chat, so it is certainly something that they could have included if they had the will for it. But
Do you know how they get around the language barrier with that? Like, I know with DQ Stars, like we would have the basic stickers that we could use to help each other out, but that was how they got around it in Stars.
That's better than nothing.
That's true.
Like, you can just typically they will just let people type in whatever their phone types in, and people gravitate towards English, but you may have somebody speaking in a foreign language. But if you're in a guild, then most of your guild members are probably going to speak English, right? Or whatever language your guild is built around. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's naturally going to happen. Like a lot of the Chinese players are going to have Chinese guilds, and a lot of the Korean players are going to have other Korean players, so that they can more easily communicate. And if they had the guild chat, they could still take advantage of it, like you said. So that's too bad. I'm disappointed in that.
Yeah, it's a shame, because in many ways they run the game really well, but this is clearly a player unfriendly decision they made.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you mentioned, well, Discord is a way to get around this, and I'm sure that's what we're all trying to do. Like I've got my own Discord server that I already have for Twitch, and so I've just integrated guild chat into that with its own channel. But the problem is that, just as the developers were wieners about including global chat, well, many people are wieners about using a new app or website, right? In this case, mainly app, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've got, out of our 60 or so guild members spread across our 3 guilds, well, 40 or more of them have signed up for our Discord and they joined, but on a daily basis, I would say like 10 of them are actually using it,
Mm-hmm.
So you just have this problem, and this is a problem that I've faced, just with my Twitch audience as well over time, is that people will sign up, they'll use it once, and they just never open it again. It's like chat or group chat only works well if everyone participates. Like if you just sign up and don't ever do anything, you never gave it a chance to entertain you, and you never really contributed in the way that the audience or that the community needed. So anyway, I don't want to be too negative, but it is a shame that we have to get people to adjust to using Discord, which is a super, super useful platform.
Yeah.
And but we're fighting a battle there. It's like it's hard enough to just manage the guild tournament, and then you have to manage getting your guild members to remember that their phones can run apps and things, too much trouble.
Right, yeah, it just adds that unnecessary extra step that we could have avoided had the game implemented its own chat.
Definitely. But by the way, to everybody who's listening, Discord is really good. I mean, besides the text chat, which is such a fun, cool thing if everybody participates, it also has voice chat. So, like, you even could just hop into a voice channel and coordinate with your friends that way if you have friends. Like, I mean, it's not like everybody expects everybody to hop into voice chat or something.
Right, yeah. In fact, that reminded me of my Stars days, because that's how I ended up joining the Dragon's Den Discord, was because of Stars, because they would coordinate with each other in the Star. And I think that's a big reason why that Dragon's Den Discord got created in the first place. Like, someone else started one, and the guy disappeared, and then another person started one, and they mainly started it so they could coordinate Star stuff, from what I understand. And so when I joined, it was great because we would talk to each other, and we do battles with each other, and we tell each other, like, oh, let's do this, let's do that. And then sometimes we'd even do like voice chat stuff. Like I would do the game, and I would stream it, and then other people would hop into the voice chat, and we talk to each other as we're trying to battle the various monsters. So it was fun.
That is cool. Yeah, Dragon Quest of the Stars was co-op, and in fact, you really needed everybody in the team to use their abilities at the right time and all that stuff.
Yes.
Which again could be frustrating at times, but yeah, it totally encouraged real-time coordination. So yeah, voice chat was great for that.
Yeah.
Before we move on to the anime, how did you do in the recent dragon-focused arena tournament?
So I did all right. I finished in the low 200s. I took advantage of Baran and a full-blossomed boreal serpent to take advantage of the dragon bonus that you got for using dragon characters from the dragon family. Dragon. Sorry. Saying dragon.
You're starting to drag on.
I am. I combined that with a King She-Slime, a Squidzilla, and a Hellsguard Vera. So that was my basic team for the most part. I did pretty well, like I said, except I had one fight pretty early on, I think maybe in the third round, where I really screwed up and almost died. I set up my characters incorrectly. It was completely my fault. It wasn't one of those unlucky situations that you get in sometimes where someone gets a critical hit. No, it was all me that time. But it came down at the end of the fight where I had Baran and two of the enemy characters, and he was able to one-shot them with his ability, and thankfully he killed them in that one shot, and I was good to go. I only got 100 points for that fight. I'm looking forward, or not looking forward, but I'm enjoying the unrestricted week that we're in right now. Right now I'm mostly using Lena, Noct, King She-Slime, and Hellsguard Vera, and Squidzilla. That's my main team. Like I said, I just got Christmas Alina, which I want to use her in the future, but I still need to build her up a little bit more before I start using her in the arena as well. How'd you do?
Well, I did pretty well, I would say. I had Dragonoid Baron as my leader the entire time. Like, I really enjoyed getting to use him because he's a cool unit, It's great when it works out that you have the unit upgraded, and here comes a week that encourages you to use it. So besides that, I had Great Dragon and Halberd Saurus in my team the whole time. Then the other two units I would kind of swap out as necessary. If I could, I had the A rank Ice Dragon. Is it Boreal Serpent?
Yes.
Yeah, so I used him when I could, but I didn't always necessarily get to use him. But I did pretty well, and I landed in the top 400, which is good for me lately. Like, in the olden days, like I came in the top 50, but like I said last episode, things have gotten harder as more and more better units have been introduced. So yeah, I'm happy to come in the top 500 nowadays.
Oh, so how many gold? What do you get? Gold trophies do you have? Do you know off the top of your head?
What's a gold trophy?
You get one for being in the top 50. If you finish in the top 50, you get a gold trophy.
Oh, well, I probably have exactly one then.
Oh, that's how many I have.
Right on.
I got in the top 50 once, and I was like, oh yeah, and I've been chasing it ever since, and just never get get that close. I get close to it. I'll get like between the 60s and the 80s. I'll get in the top 100, but I just can't get quite that far. You gotta have almost a perfect week. Like you just lose a couple of points and then you're done. Like,
yes.
Okay.
In fact, nowadays it may actually require a perfect week. Like my guild has discussed that as well. But there'll be like a lot of people in the top position, and then one little mistake, and all of a sudden you're like way far from the top. It's interesting.
Yeah, you lose like one character and you get 120 instead of 128 points, and then it's like you're done. It's like, oh man.
I wish they would rebalance it a little bit to make it more inclusive but still competitive. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it would be nice if they could at least have like the gold trophy be like the top 100, because that's more realistic to get as opposed to top 50. Because like you said, you pretty much have to have a perfect round to get in there. And like that doesn't make any sense. That like, how do you get the 1 through 49 if like you just lose one character and then that's the end of it? Like you should be able to make at least two small mistakes before you get kicked out of the top 50, or at least, you know what I mean? I don't know. That's just me.
It would be nice.
Oh, and to be clear, I kept talking about using Baron, but I wasn't using Baron. I was using Dragonoid Baron. That was the one that I used, and that's great because he's pretty powerful. He's not got the best defense, but he's kind of like my cleanup, where all my quicker characters go in and attack, and then he goes in last and gets whatever's left, and he's got a wide range of attack. But he's pretty cool, and he's only like a 50 weight, so that's good as well to take advantage of.
Yes, I really like that because he is a pretty dang strong unit. So yeah, he's fun. And
probably the best dragon character that we have right now.
Yes, you're right. And I used crystals to awaken him, so at least I've got the awakening on him. It's nice. So speaking of all this arena talk, it's time for the Tact Tip of the Week. Today's Tip of the Week is all about those arena battles.
That's right, tacticians. The lineups you have to fight in the arena can be tough, just like we were talking about. Did you know there are 2 methods to get easier opponents?
Apparently so. The first method is to start the arena as soon as it opens every Sunday night at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We say Pacific Standard Time because that's what the official game announcements do, although they typically botch daylight savings time, and it makes it kind of hard to know what time they're really talking about.
If you start your battles right around the time the arena opens, you are guaranteed to get easy bot battles for all 3 fights and be set up with a bot battle for your first fight the next day.
I always enjoy that. And speaking of the next day's opponents, did you know the opponents you see after your 3rd fight are guaranteed to be the first ones you face in the next day's battles?
Indeed, that's the case. You can preview who you fight the next day. Does the lineup look too tough? No problem. Just keep fighting opponents until you see what you like for the next day.
Yeah, the fights are not official at that point, so there's no penalty for losing, and you could even get some practice in. Why not?
Yeah, that's amazing. So that was our Tact Tip of the Week. Now let's get into some Dai.
Every week, we're going to review 2 episodes from the newest Dragon Quest The Adventure of Dai anime.
In the future, we will also do reviews of the manga, upcoming Dai console news, and maybe even a little bit about the merchandise as well. Might even do some merchandise talk today.
Oh boy. Sadly, neither of us plays the mobile game, and that's because we've got a life to lead, Cha-Cha.
So episode 3, we'll start with that first. We did 1 and 2 last podcast. Episode 3 is titled The Hero's Tutor. So a trainer of heroes named Avan arrives to teach Dai how to become a hero himself. So for this episode, a lot of interesting things happened. I thought to start out with, I thought it was very interesting how as Hadler came into the island, all the monsters started to turn evil. Even Grandpa Brass was trying to fight it. But Gomi-chan was the only one who didn't turn evil. He wasn't affected by it whatsoever.
He is truly one of a kind.
Yeah, because I know later on he's going to do some interesting things, which I won't go into because I don't want to spoil beyond what we're talking about today. And they don't, where I'm at in the show, they don't fully explain why some of these things happen. But yeah, he has some special abilities that will continue to surprise as the show goes on. It'll be cool. I also thought it was interesting. It shows how a lot of the monsters in this world of Dai aren't inherently evil, and it's really more about how the Dark Lords will come about and basically put them in a berserk state, and that's why they attack everybody and help out the demons to take over the world or do whatever they're trying to go for. It's similar to the situation in the beginning of Dragon Quest Heroes 1, if you remember that.
Which is cool. Great game.
Yeah, and I'll throw this up on the YouTube version of the podcast for everyone to see this, but those close-ups of the berserk monsters charging Dai is, to me, was nightmare fuel with those glowing red eyes. I had forgotten how creepy they all looked.
Yeah, we're used to them being nice. And by the way, when they first started going berserk, Dai is riding on a Ram Raider. Are you familiar with that enemy?
Yeah. I think he first showed up in, I want to say 3, maybe?
It's probably 3. Do you remember if he's in 11?
I don't think so. No, they're not.
Yeah, so it's nice to see a classic monster like that come to life in the anime.
Yeah, and it's so goofy, but my favorite part of that episode is Avan running around, carving up the island to set up his glimmer spell. I really like that part of the episode.
That is a really fun part. And by the way, in the manga version of this, that part is, I mean, it's basically the same. But, the manga is normally black and white, but I noticed that this particular scene, or this, the manga part that corresponds with the episode, it's the first time they go into color, and then it's only full color for a page or two, but then it switches to using black, white, and red, which gives it a dash of color. And that's pretty cool looking for those parts that use it.
Yeah, I'm wondering how that is set up, because I know this manga was initially published through Shonen Jump in Japan, so I don't know what their methods are when it comes to when they use color, when they use partial color, and things of that nature. We were talking about before, if this was like American comic strips in the paper, I could tell you why something is in color and why something is not. It's a weekday, it's a Sunday, whatever. But I don't know how that works with manga.
Yeah, and of course, I assume that it has to do with budget, but yeah, we don't know the exact details behind that. And by the way, so Avan comes and saves the day. This is where we meet him, and he's not in the anime for that long, but he's still a really important character, who casts a shadow over the course of the anime. And I noticed that in the comic and the original anime, that before Avan gets there, there's a scene in Papnika Kingdom. Like, we see all hell breaking loose in Papnika Kingdom.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and then you've got a scene with Avan sleeping in his bed, and Pop comes and wakes him up, and he's acting like it's all dire, but Avan's kind of like calm and collected about it. That's not in the new anime, although the new anime does kind of show them like on a ship leaving Papnika. So similar, just a little bit of a different interpretation.
Yeah, probably part of that pacing too. And sometimes, like you just pointed out, similar scenes will just happen in different locations.
Yeah, which can be fun to observe if you happen to experience the different versions of the show or whatever.
Yeah, because we were talking about last time about the fight with the monsters in the capsules, and like how in the first anime they fight and I think in the manga too, they fight in the courtyard of Rome. What is the name of the kingdom? I forget.
Not
but
Papnika.
Anyway, not Papnika. It's the other one that starts with an R. But anyways, they're fighting in the courtyard of that castle, and that's interesting. But they made it even more interesting in the new anime where they're fighting on the boat, especially when they, like I was saying before, the green dragon just kind of falls from the air and almost crashes the boat over to the side. So cool stuff like that.
Yes, that was nice and dynamic of them.
Yeah. Something I also thought was pretty hilarious was how, like, when Avan is introducing himself, he pulls out like this little scroll. He pulls out like these credentials of like, hey, this, I'm for real. I'm not just some kind of scammer, which they've run into before, if you think about it.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So, and he's like, it subtitles the scroll what it says, and it says like, I can train a hero, a 15-year veteran of the trade. And it's so funny to see that. It's goofy stuff like that I like about Avan sometimes.
And speaking of which, here's another comparison to the old anime, because I find those really interesting, so bear with me. But this exact same scene, it's a little bit longer in the original anime. Like, he pulls out the scroll and all that, but he goes into a bit of a longer presentation about his tutoring. He's trying to sell himself. And, he's doing all these funny poses, like, I don't know, like a military guy might do or something, like a general or whatever. And behind him, Pop has erected like a banner, like a full height banner behind him.
Yeah.
So he's just like really adding to the presentation. And then as soon as he finishes, Pop rolls it right up and puts it away. So that's really cute.
That's nice. I also love the Dragon Quest reference prints of Gargoyle A and Gargoyle B that's plastered on their forehead. So it's like in the games where if you have enemies that are the same, they'll be like, oh, it's Slime A and Slime B and Slime C. So I loved how they threw that joke in there into the anime. And I also love how they use Fizzle in that episode too. The gargoyles use Fizzle in the episode, and fun fact, they actually cast Fizzle in the games too. Now, I could be wrong, but I would bet a detail like that is where Yuji Hoри's supervision would come into play, because if you remember, if you look at the manga, he's credited with being a supervisor on the whole project. So that might have been something that he threw in, like, hey, we could do that. I mean, I don't know, maybe it was the manga creator, but maybe that has a little bit of Yuji Horii going in there. Who knows?
It's certainly an element of true authenticity. And speaking of those gargoyles, do you remember how the first gargoyle Pop casts, what is it, frizz on it?
Kafrizz.
There you go. Yeah, and do you remember how the second one was defeated?
In which version?
Well, I mean, it's similar in both, but okay. In the new anime, Dai simply comes in, he does a slash in it.
Yes,
he's actually doing, what is he doing? He's doing wave slash without knowing it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it cuts it in half, and it also cuts through the water. It's a cool, quick, dramatic moment. Well, in the original, it's a bit darker, because Dai does the slash, and the gargoyle, he's like, you missed, and he acts like nothing's wrong. Then we see the water part behind him, and then he splits apart. So it's like...
Yeah, does he try to keep himself together, too? I can't remember if he does that.
Oh, no, he doesn't actually do that.
Oh, he doesn't do that? I couldn't remember if he does that or not, because it's been a while since I've seen that.
Yeah, and by the way, when his body splits apart, there's no guts or anything. And in fact, it's black on the inside, which is something that I had thought they only do with newer animes, because, newer animes are not as happy about showing gore, like Dragon Ball Z Kai and even Dai. Sometimes they kind of reduce the blood and violence compared to older animes. But even in the older one, it's just like black with no features inside of his body.
Gotcha. Yeah, because a lot of times the original anime and in the manga to a certain extent as well, like it gets a lot more gory than the new anime does. They tone down the new anime a bit, because I remember especially when the fake party of heroes in the first few episodes, when they start attacking the monsters, like when you see that in the original anime, like it's kind of gory, and you see people like cut in half and stuff, and I was like, oh my god, this is a kid's show. But then I remembered that Japan is a completely different culture, and they were cool with it. But still, these days they're not quite as gory when it comes to the show. They tone it down a bit.
Indeed, like that part you were describing, you could think that the monsters just got knocked over. Like you don't know that they're actually being killed sometimes.
Right. Oh, another thing I liked about the episode was I like the voice actor for Avan. Like his voice quality mixed with how he delivers the line is very entertaining, and it fits the character very, very well in my mind. It's kind of like his voice is kind of like soothing yet full of confidence and strength, and like a little bit of playfulness at times, depending on what the scene calls for.
If you like him so much, why don't you marry him?
Well, maybe I will. So another great thing that's introduced in this episode is that we alluded to earlier is Avan Strash. So that is formally introduced into the episode. I really like the look of this attack, which is good since it does become one of the signature attacks of the series. And for those who don't know, Strash in the Avan Strash is basically taking the word strike and slash and combining them together. That's what they do.
Strash just rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Sounds super great in English.
Yeah, and it's something I'm sure they're not concerned with whatsoever, because
not at all.
Nuh-uh. So yeah, because I remember when the console game was first announced and it uses Strash in the name, and people were making fun of it. It's like, what's this? This is trash. Blah blah blah. And I was like, you don't know what it really stands for. Trust me, it's okay.
Little did we know that our ridiculing of the name would lead to the game never coming out. Oh no.
Yeah, they keep delaying it. They keep delaying it. Like they had that last major delay. They said that they didn't think that the graphical presentation was up to the standard that it should be, so they went back and wanted to work on it more. So that's why they said the last delay was in place.
Man, just use the Heroes 2 engine. That game looked great.
It did. And like they did, they showed like a little demo reel of Dai fighting Crocodile in the game, and it looked pretty good, I thought. So I don't know.
Oh well.
But also in the episode, I love the how they use the basic slashes that lead up to the Avan slash. You've got like the earth, the water, and the air slash, and they're kind of like the Dragon Quest armamentalist magic sword attacks. So I wonder if that's what inspired some of that in Dragon Quest later on, or if that's just a coincidence. Because it's not like they invented magic sword attacks. There's other things that have done it before, but I'm just wondering if that's related at all.
It's always cool when there's some overlap, and it had me thinking like, hey, we don't actually have earth magic in Tact, do we?
Party Time Giuliante does an earth attack, but I don't think it doesn't actually have like an earth element tied to it.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So, interesting.
Yeah. And, I've heard, though I can't verify this, that some elements of Dai were used in later Dragon Quest games. That's something I'll have to research later on to see if that's actually true.
You'd better.
So another thing I liked about this episode is Pop secretly watching the harder training. I thought that was amusing too. Like, he doesn't want to do the harder training. He just wants to do the regular training, but he's very curious about Dai, so he keeps spying on him. And as Avan, puts it later on, that it's kind of something that he's glad that he's doing, because it means he's taking more of an interest in his training in general, something that he was kind of slacking on before, as he said, as he was talking to Grandpa Brass.
It's interesting. Pop has some character growth to go through, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so initially he's not as dedicated as you might expect, and he's a bit lazy. Like, in fact, he reminds me of American public school students. But yeah, he gets, he's a bit jealous of Dai. Like, he sees that Dai is accomplishing all these things, and maybe he's getting attention, but certainly just that he's going through things so fast, and it results in him trying a little bit harder. And in fact, in the original anime, there's a little bit of extra dialogue where Pop points out that, that he likes that, that Avan points out that Pop is going through these extra efforts. It's mentioned in both, but he just talks about it a little more, which is cool.
Gotcha. Yeah, I would say that Pop probably has the most amount of character growth throughout the anime that I've seen so far. And you'll see because he hasn't hit rock bottom yet either. Like, There's some things that we'll talk about in later episodes where we're going to be like, woo, Pop, what are you doing?
For real.
But, another great Dragon Quest reference that I loved in this episode that was at the end of it was Puff. That was great to see that Dragon Quest skill here. Like, when you do the spell Puff, you turn into a dragon. So Avan uses it, and he turns into a dragon to do some intense training with Dai. And he kind of looks like if you're familiar with the Professor Saurus from Dragon Quest XI. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's a nod to Avan's dragon form, because in 11, if you remember, the Professor Saurus is this dragon. It has little spectacles like Avan does, and it usually has like a little teacher outfit and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's a coincidence or not. That'd be fun if it was a nod to Avan.
Yeah, I know we've been chatting with one of our friends a little bit about spell names and things like that, and Puff is an interesting spell name because, it changes the person who casts it into a dragon, and it, you have to realize that it's making a reference to Puff the Magic Dragon, because like Puff on its own does not sound like something relating to dragons unless you know of the song, right? And then it's like, oh, that's what they're doing. And in the Japanese version, the name of the spell, it's the word dragon plus some extra syllables added to it, like sort of like Dragonoid or whatever. Like, to me, that's more intuitive. But, the Dragon Quest translators like to make jokes out of things. And so, yeah, they turned into a little joke there.
Puff, puff, pass.
Also, speaking of which, for that scene, Avan asks Brass if there's somewhere more isolated that they can do this next bit of training, right? Mm-hmm. So he takes him off somewhere. In the new anime, he takes him to what looks like sort of there's like an arch and just a mountainous area, like there's some mountainy walls.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in the manga and the original anime, he actually takes Dai into a cave. So,
that's right.
Yeah, this is one of those instances of just changing the location. And in this case, I don't think the new show does it to condense things. I think they just did it for stylistic reasons. Yeah,
I think that like we kind of pointed out with like Avan being in the boat as opposed to Avan being in the town. Like, it's for sometimes it's not just trying to move things along. Sometimes it's just like, hey, let's try a different location for this scene, just for the heck of it.
Yeah, spices it up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, this is one episode that we've been talking about of the new anime. But just like last week, in the original anime, 2 episodes. So the pace is a lot different, but still a good pace in the new show.
Mm-hmm.
Now then, let's talk about episode 4, The Dark Lord Hadler's Return. In this episode, we are going to see Dai continue with his training, and of course, we will see Hadlar come in and wreck shop.
That's for sure. And, I don't remember if this is in the manga or the first anime, but the shot of Hadler where he's standing on the water right before he decides to go to the island, and you see some of the water like turn into steam, was a very cool establishing shot that they did for the new anime.
Nice. Well, in the other versions, we do meet him in the water, but there's also a little fishing boat with 2 fishermen on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they've already noticed some ominous signs, with the sky and everything. Then they notice Hadlar, and they foolishly attract his attention, and he kills him dead before approaching the island.
I forgot about that, and that's going to go against a point I'll bring up later, but I'll remember that.
Yeah, it establishes him as a cruel, immediate threat, I would say. So it's in a way, it's too bad they took it out. But if they want the tone to be a little bit lighter, then it makes sense to leave it out. And
to be honest with you, and I'll explain more about this later, but I think that is good for his character based off what they'll do with it later. Does he go after those fishermen in the manga? I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I flipped through it earlier.
Oh, yeah, there it is. I'm looking at it right now. He certainly does. He's just like, what are you guys doing? Goodbye.
Yep, and it's a shame they didn't do anything to him. But you're right, leaving it out does allow him to become a more sympathetic character later at times.
Yeah, exactly. This is probably my favorite part of this episode is that seeing Gome-chan, he gets all panicky when Avan turns into a dragon, so he goes to find Pop. And so Pop is like, hey, what's going on? Why are you panicking? Well, I don't understand Gome-chan speak. So he turns into like a little Avan figure, like he can kind of morph his body into look like a little Avan head, and then he's like, okay, Avan, so it's something about Avan, and then he turns into morphs into like a little yellow Avan dragon to explain what's going on to Pop, which I found was absolutely adorable. It was great.
Yeah, and I don't know if I've seen him do that again later in the series, although I'm not as far as you are. But at least right then we learned that he has ways of communicating with people who don't understand monster speak.
And I really like the design for Hadler when he's in the cape and when he takes the cape off to be more serious about the fight. Like, I thought the character design for Hadler was pretty cool. I liked it. Yeah,
he's a really cool character in general.
Yeah. And then there's that big reveal as Avan tells everyone that, hey, you know what? I am the previous hero that defeated Hadler. Hadler basically gives it away, but he said like, yeah, that's what happened. And even Pop didn't even know about it. Like, he had kept that from Pop as well. And he'd been training under him for about a year.
That's right. And Brass knew of an Avan who did that, but he hadn't made the connection yet.
Yeah, he like once they talk about it more, and Hadler gives it away, and then Avan is like, oh yeah, and then like Grandpa Brass is like, oh my God, you're the Avan, you're the hero, you're the one that beat up Hadler and saved the day, back long ago.
Indeed.
Oh, and then the fights I really liked, and this is something that you saw a little bit before earlier in the series, and you'll see more as the series goes on. But like it's a little obvious that they do use CGI to augment a lot of the spell elements when they're casting spells, boom, sizz and sizz and whatever. But what? I think they do it. See, you couldn't even tell. So that's they blend it very well, and I think how they do it looks just amazing. I like how they blend the two elements together. It looks really good.
Yeah, man, I thought that boom was all natural.
I'm sorry that I had to break that to you.
Breaks my heart.
Something I thought that looked amazing was, so Avan, I forget if it's Sizz or Sizz, that I think that's what he cast on Hadler, and then like Hadler's on fire, and all of a sudden you see, like, you hear this demonic laughing, and then you see Hadler through the fire, but he looks all like super demonic, kind of warped through the fire that's all around him. Yeah. And I thought that was very impressive looking. I like that.
Yes, it was very dramatic. And then Hadlar goes on to cast his right back at him, but perhaps stronger.
Mm-hmm. And then he's like, "Wow, how'd you get so strong? I don't understand." But so when he takes off the cape and you see that like he's a kind of a dark elf, and they go on to explain. I know they go on to explain later in the show that he is a dark elf. And that is basically what the character that Pizarro is in Dragon Quest IV that would come out shortly after the manga started. So I'm wondering if there's some kind of comparison with that. Like maybe the creators of Dragon Quest, they're like, oh, hey, this dark elf Hadler, he looks pretty cool. Why don't we make Pizarro a dark elf as well? Maybe there's no connection there, but who knows?
Good question. But isn't Pizarro's humanoid form not green?
No. Yeah, it's a different color scheme for sure. Like it's a completely different look, but it's the same type of
same type
basic
of race. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Although he says darkling, right? Isn't that what they say in the new anime?
Oh, you know what? That might be right. I might be thinking of like maybe that's what they call them in the subtitles for the first anime. So I could be off on that.
Yeah, good question, because I didn't quite get to that episode in the original anime, but that's all right.
Yeah. But I mean, they both got pointy ears. They're elfish, I don't know.
And during this fight, it comes out. Oh yeah, as I'm sure you enjoyed, the Hadlar, he offers half the world to Avan. That's an exciting moment.
Oh, that was great. I was like, oh, you just went there. You went full Dragon Quest 1. That was great.
Classic reference.
Yes, that was and then and Avan has the best comeback for it too.
Yes.
Because Avan says, you know what? You're no longer the guy in charge. It's Dark King Vern, because that's who Hadler says, like, it's not me pulling the strings anymore. It's this Dark King Vern guy. And Avan is like, you know what? You probably don't have the authority to give me half the world, even if you wanted to. So, you know what? No, I'm good.
Yeah, and Hadlar hates that.
He gets so pissed off. What I thought was very cool, too, the way Hadler was in that fight. So he takes an Avan Strash head on, basically to kind of test out his new power, because he like takes it and he's like, oh, hey, look, my new body, new powers. That did not get me like it did before. And this is kind of like in line with how he fights throughout the series in like one-on-one battles in the future. And usually, and this is basically why the fisherman thing kind of ruined my theory, because usually he doesn't just kill for the sake or the fun of killing.
True.
He lets Pop, because in the episode, like he lets Pop and Dai go at first.
Initially,
Initially, he's like, yeah, you guys aren't important. You guys can go ahead. I got bigger fish to fry. I don't care. I'm just here for Avan. And Pop is like, thank you. And he's like, or sorry, whatever he says. And then he lets him go until he realizes, that Dai is a lot stronger than he thought he was, because he did that very cool, like, one finger block when Dai tried to attack him with the Papnika knife.
Oh, yeah.
And then he didn't realize until later, he's like, oh my God, you actually cut me. Like, you might be something I have to worry about later on, so I'm going to blast you too. And so the way he acts in the episode, at least in the new anime, because he doesn't blast the fisherman, it's kind of character foreshadowing for how he is later in the series.
Yeah, so perhaps that's actually an improvement, or at least it makes the arc a little smoother, right?
Yeah, exactly. It makes it make more sense in later on, where you see him kind of evolve himself.
Yeah, and it is cool how he powers up throughout the show, kind of Dragon Ball-like, which makes sense for the Dragon Quest property.
Mm-hmm. And at very end of the episode, when Hadler is like, you know what, Dai, I need to take you out too. Then that's when Avan steps in and he goes in between the spell and to protect Dai and Pop, and he gets a big shot to the back, and that's how they end the episode. So he's not in good shape probably after taking that.
Very heroic of him.
Mm-hmm. So that was episode 4. So before we wrap things up, I thought I would talk about a little bit of Dai merchandise that I got recently.
Okay.
So one of the things that I just got was I got this Bam figure, and it's not her early form where she has the gun, but it's actually when she class changes later on in the show into what I won't say since we haven't gotten that far yet. But it's a nice. I'll have it on the YouTube version if you want to see it in our YouTube version of the podcast. But it's one of those premium figures that you can get in the claw the claw games that they have in Japan. Those are super popular in Japan, and they have like regular ones that are like little cheap toys, but they have like premium figures and stuff like that too. And there's a lot of Dragon Quest merchandise that they make just for those claw games, and they make nice figures just for the claw games, and she's one of them. So I was able to buy that off basically Mercadi, I think is where I got it, which is basically kind of like a Japanese eBay, but that is also in English that you can take advantage of.
How cool. And it's nice to hear that you've graduated to buying clothed mom figures now.
Yeah, nice joke there, buddy. Yeah, I'm not that kind of figure collector, because they get crazy with the figures over there in Japan. It's like, okay.
So they do.
But yeah, I don't have any of those. But and then I also got volume 2 book 2 of the manga. Now that we're getting these in English, that came in right around the street date, which was May 10th. And I found out something very interesting about ordering these books, is that initially I had them all pre-ordered through Amazon. I think you can order the first 4 or 5 books through Amazon. But then I found out from other people at the Dragon's Den that there's other places, other bookstores that just decide, hey, you know what, street date? Well, what's a street date? We're just going to put it out early. We don't care.
Who's going to stop us?
Yeah, who's going to stop us? Barnes & Noble, that's who it is. So I waited for my Amazon order on book 2 to come in, but I canceled all my other pre-orders with Amazon, and now I went with Barnes & Noble pre-orders. So I saw people that were getting it like a week ahead of the street date, and I was like, oh, you know what? That sounds great. So I'll go ahead and go with Barnes & Noble. Same price, free shipping. I was like, yeah, that sounds good.
Lucky them.
Mm-hmm. So any final thoughts? Oh, you know what? Sorry. Before I get into that, one last thing, I haven't gotten it yet, but I also ordered the Dragon Quest set. It's a set of 3 books, and they're all art books. One book is like a sketch book of like early sketches of when they were, designing all the characters for the manga. And then one of them is a art book which has all of the Jump cover, or the Shonen Jump covers. It has like interviews and little specials that they did from the artist and from the writer. And then like the final one is just like a straight up book of art that the artist did for the different characters and things of that nature. So I have that coming in the mail. Found it on sale through Mercadi. Wasn't too expensive, so I ended up getting that too. So I'll talk about that once I get it in a future episode.
Cool. You'll have to share a link for that as well.
Oh, I will. So any final thoughts before we wrap it up? Sure.
I have one more little comparison to make between episode 4 of the new anime and the other versions. And that is, the fight between Dai and the dragon form of Avan. Well, the fight always ends with Dai getting in a good hit on the dragon's nose, and that causes him to change back into his human form, right?
Yeah.
Well, in the new anime, like his nose is sore, and Pop offers to cast Crack to soothe him or whatever, and then he says, well, maybe we should have Dai do it, because he knows that Dai can only make tiny little bits of ice. Mm-hmm. So then, he makes like just a hunk of ice and holds it against his nose, right? Mm-hmm. But in the classic anime, he simply asks Pop for a Band-Aid and puts a Band-Aid on his nose, and then he's wearing that. So
I remember that, yeah.
Amusing difference.
Little Band-Aid. Yeah.
Yeah, and then everybody laughs at how silly he looks, and they laugh for quite a while.
the big anime laugh, yeah, or laughing.
There you go.
We're gonna laugh a little bit too long. Let's keep going. And so on.
Well then, that's all for this episode of Slime Time Tactfully Dai. If you want to prepare for the next episode, be sure to watch episodes 5 and 6 of the current Adventure of Dai anime on Crunchyroll.
We don't use Patreon, but if you do have any money that is just completely strashing in your wallet, pouch, bottomless bag, treasure chest, pot, barrel, safe, or even searchable wall sack, and you would like to donate anything to a website that's been supporting Dragon Quest fans for over 20 years, stop by the Dragon's Den at www.woodis.com/den and click on support this site. Woodis has owned and maintained the Dragon's Den DQ fan site for decades. He personally edits every YouTube version of our podcast, and he fully appreciates any donations to help him keep the servers running.
The Dragon's Den website also features an Amazon affiliate link. If you click the link and then make a purchase, The small fraction of the sale will go to support the den. Doesn't cost you anything.
Not even a piece of your soul. If you have any comments or questions for the Dragon Quest Slime Time podcast, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at DQ Slime Time.
And you can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/EastXTwitch. Come watch me play a variety of games every Saturday, kids. Getting back to Dragon Quest, consider joining in tons of DQ discussions at the Dragon's Den forums, one of the few remaining forums. Find it from the Dragon's Den main page or at woodus.com/forums. You can also find us and other rabid Dragon Quest fans through the Dragon Questers and Dragon Quest Tact global Facebook groups. We'd love to see you there.
Or come hang out with us and tons of other hardcore Dragon Quest fans on the officially unofficial Dragon's Den Discord server.
We'd like to thank everyone that made this possible, including Pendy, Woodus, the Dragon's Den, and Weird Al Yankovic. Another one rides the bus.
And a special thanks to Platty for helping me out with our rotating podcast logo.
Please like, subscribe, and write a review for the podcast. We'd be so grateful.
For more Dragon Quest Slime Time, check out our library of episodes on Dragon's Den, Anchor.fm, Apple Podcasts, Audible, YouTube, and more.
Bye, everybody. Don't hate. Appreciate.
Time to zoom on out of here.